Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Welcome to the 6th class of our program on Introduction to Vedanta. Before going to today's class, let me quickly recap some of the important aspects that we studied in the last class. The most important aspects, which I said is the climax of all Vedanta, is to know our real self, what is Atma, to know the difference between Atma and Anatma. Swami Paramarthananda ji has given certain fundamental laws that we need to remember. And what is this Maya all about? The whole spiritual journey is condensed in this mantra, Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Please take me from that which appears to be real, but not real. For all that appears to be real, the Vedantic term is mithya, like in mythology, which is an appearance, but not so real. There are two levels of apparent reality. One is the dream world, which is called the Pratibhasika Satyam. When I am dreaming, during that experience of dream, the dream experiences are absolutely real, and you will say it is a dream only once you wake up. Once you wake up, the dream world disappears, the dream body, the dream experiences, all the suffering in the dream disappears. We wake up to a higher level of reality, which is called Vyavaharika. Vyavaharika, where we transact, and which appears to be absolutely tangible, absolutely real. Everything around me looks solid, real, just like as it was solid, real. However, those who have woken up from this reality, and that is what the whole journey of spirituality is, to explore an even higher level of reality, which is called Paramarthika. Paramarthika is the highest level of reality. That level is through the discovery of my real nature. And the real nature is not finding out of something other than me. It is finding out who I really am, very well given in the 10th man example, and which is proclaimed in Vedanta through a Mahavakya, is the one that you are looking for. That source of permanent peace, security, and happiness is none other than the witness, the consciousness within you, as nicely demonstrated in the 10th man story. We spoke of Atma as real, or Brahman as real, and the world around me as not so real, or mithya. This is extremely difficult to believe. How can you say the world around me is not real? Let me look from a scientific perspective, as Dr. Ravi Shankar presented it in the last class. I am seeing you and you are seeing me. The question is, am I really seeing you, or I'm seeing only an image of you? And if you study how the eye functions, all of us see the whole world as an inverted image in our retina. The whole world comes into us as an image. From the retina to the brain, through a series of neural processing, that image in both my video cameras of the eyes are converted in the brain, and I see the whole world now as a thought. The whole world now has been reduced to a thought. Now, is a thought satya or mithya? Now remember, the whole dream world is also a thought. So from a scientific perspective also, we may think the world is absolutely real, but the world is all imagery. Once you understand this fact very clearly through Vedantic wisdom, that the only reality is I, the world is a conditioned reality, and this is what is called mithya. Then what do? Through this understanding, I play the role of this body that I am. And once you realize that the world is a game or a role to play, then it becomes a drama, it becomes a leela, it becomes a game. I play my game how? Very intensely, as decided as per my role, but there is no seriousness about it. It is a game. And this is the whole shift, what we call from a triangular format. In a triangular format, what do I see? I see the world, the Jiva Jagat triangular format, which our teacher calls as MBBS. meaningless, burdensome, boring struggle. Shift to Mithya Jagat Brahma Satya. The only reality is me. The world is a conditioned reality or a lower order of reality. And remember, a fundamental law: the lower order of reality can never affect the higher order of reality as long as I remember I am of the higher order of reality. Just like any problem that you experience in the dream, however serious it may be, once you wake up, it does not affect you. Now, this is impossible to believe, but true. Just like you see the sun setting and the sun rising, my experience is real, the experience of everybody is real, but is it real? The reality is just the other way around. And if you are able to accept that, slowly and slowly through a process of understanding, we need to come into this understanding that I am the only reality and everything else becomes a conditioned reality. This is possible through Guru, Shastra, Upadesha, and that is our whole spiritual journey. Once this knowledge has been given to us, like Sri Dakshinamurti, you can see his right leg is on somebody. Who is that? That apas is apasmara, or forgetfulness. I must never forget. Once I am into vyavahara, once I am into transaction, the moment I am insulted or hurt, the lower self in me immediately surfaces. The snake gets projected. The fears become very real. So Dakshinamurti should remember all the time, remember that the real self is you, and the world is of a lower order of reality. And as long as I keep this understanding, the world cannot really affect me. Before we go to the topic for today, we will study, I will introduce you what are the topics for today's class. Today's classes will be the pinnacle of Brahma Vidya. What is the advantage of having this knowledge? This is called Gnana Phalam. And one more, and the final topic in this basic program is called the law of karma. Before we go to the actual topic today, because from the next class we will have a glimpse of the Bhagavad Gita. In our tradition, from the 16th century onwards, when a great Acharya called Madhusudana Saraswati wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, his commentary was called Gudartha Deepika. And in his commentary, he made some very bold changes. Normally, nobody makes any changes in the scripture. He dared to add an extra verse, making it Arjuna's question, because it became relevant for the discussion. And at the end of every chapter, we have a small phrase, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre. Now, all these were introduced by the great Acharya Madhusudana Saraswati. He also introduced a few verses called the Gita Dhyana Shlokas, which have become very popular, and a lot of us study the Gita Dhyana Shlokas. So those of us who want to sincerely study the Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that we study the Gita Dhyana Shlokas, and the study of the Gita Dhyana Shlokas brings about an additional blessings for us to study the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. To explain the first Gita Dhyana Shloka, very popular one, Om Partaya, it will be Dr. Rupa Suresh. Dr. Rupa is a physician and a geriatrician and an ardent student of Vedanta. Over to you, Dr. Rupa.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Let's start with chanting the first Dhyana Shloka of the Gita Namaskara. Om Partaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrutavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambadvamanusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. Going to the translation of this verse, here the author says, O Mata Bhagavad Gita, I constantly meditate upon you, which was taught to Arjuna by Lord Narayana himself, which was composed by Vyasacharya, the ancient sage, in the middle of Mahabharata, which consists of 18 chapters, which showers the ambrosial wisdom of non-duality, which is divine and which is the enemy of samsara. Now coming to the explanation of the verse proper. Here, what is Bhagavad Gita? Parthaya Pratibodhitam. It is a teaching which was given to Arjuna, one of the Pancha Pandavas. Taught by whom? Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam. Taught by no ordinary person. It was taught by Lord Narayana himself. And in this teaching, there will be no defect at all. It is a time-tested wisdom. Compiled by whom? Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina. Bhagavad Gita was written by Vyasacharya, who is supposed to be an avatara of Lord Vishnu, and therefore reporting is 100% correct, as he is the most experienced Rishi, who has given us 18 Puranas. Where has he given this? Madhye Mahabharatam. In the middle of Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita is occurring in the middle of Mahabharata in the Shanti Parva, when Arjuna faces a crisis and all the resources he had fail to help him. At that time, Lord Krishna gives him the teaching and Bhagavad Gita was composed. What is the content of Bhagavad Gita? Advaitamrita Varshini. It showers the wisdom of Advaitam, the non-dual infinite truth. The truth is called Advaitam. Amrutam is the nectar of wisdom. That is, it showers the Satya Gnana. How big is the Bhagavad Gita? Ashtadasha Dhyayini. It has 18 chapters and 700 verses. What does it mean to us? Tvam Anusandadhami. Here, the author of the Dhyana Shlokas, Sri Madhusudana Saraswati, is referring to Bhagavad Gita as the mother, Hey Amba. How a mother knows to feed the infant, initially with liquids, followed by semisolids, then with solids. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita mother knows to give the wisdom of Karma Yoga in the beginning stages, followed by Upasana Yoga in the later stages, and then when you're ready, really ready for it, then she knows to give you the wisdom of Jnana Yoga. And you are the mother who will nourish my internal personality, and I meditate upon you with reverence. What are the advantages of learning the Bhagavad Gita? Bhava Dveshini. Bhava here means samsara and Dvesha means enemy. Samsara means dissatisfaction with oneself. It could be either physical, example, the way you look. It could be emotional, for example, my children don't love me. Or it could be intellectual. What is this life? Moving from this samsara to moksha, that is total satisfaction with myself as I am. This fulfillment or purnatvam is called moksha. And Bhagavad Gita is the destroyer of samsara. And to such a Bhagavad Gita, I meditate upon before I study or before I start the study. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa, for a very clear explanation of the first Gita Dhyana Shloka. We will have one more Gita Dhyana Shloka explained to us by Dr. Sanjay Banakal. Dr. Sanjay Banakal is a neuro and a cardiac anesthesiologist from Narayana Hridayalaya and a very ardent student and teacher of Vedanta. Dr. Sanjay, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hegde. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namostu te vyasa vishada buddhe hullara vindayata patra netra yena tvaya bharata taila purnaha prajwalito jnanamaya pradeepaha. We are now entering into the second Gita Dhyana Shloka. These beautiful Dhyana Shlokas were composed by Acharya Madhusudana Saraswati in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita known as Gudartha Deepika. Here in this verse, a student offers salutations to Vyasa Maharshi, who is the composer of Bhagavad Gita in the middle of Mahabharata. Prior to Vyasacharya, the source of knowledge was one single entity known as Veda, where the information was strewn all over. It was Vyasa who arranged, classified the Vedas and divided them into four, which we now know as Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvana Veda. The division in Sanskrit is known as Vyasa, and hence he is known as Veda Vyasa. He is also known as Krishna Dvaipayana. Krishna meaning a person of dark complexion, Dvaipayana, one who was born in an island. The contribution of Vyasa Maharshi to the field of scripture is so vast and immense that he not only divided the Vedas into four, he further expanded them into Itihasas and Puranas so that the essence of Vedas could percolate right down to the common man in the form of simple stories. Mahabharata is one of the Itihasas. The two hugely popular Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are known to each and every person here in this country. Not only the Puranas and Itihasas, he has also contributed to a text known as Brahma Sutra, a voluminous text on philosophy and logic. It is not an exaggeration if Madhusudana Saraswati calls Vyasa as Vyasa Vishala Buddhe, man of wide knowledge. He is also considered as the incarnation of Lord Vishnu himself, as it is impossible humanly to pursue such a large task. Now, let us move on to the meaning of each of these words. Namostute, salutations to you, Vyasa Vishala Buddhe, O Vyasa, of such a vast mind, Phullara Vindayata Patra Netra, whose eyes are as beautiful as the fully bloomed petals of a lotus flower, Yena Tvaya, by whom Gnanamaya Pradipaha, the lamp of knowledge, Bharata Taila Purnaha, filled with the oil of Mahabharata, Prajvalitaha, is lighted. The literal translation goes like this: O Vyasa Maharshi, salutations to you. You are of such a vast knowledge, and whose eyes are as beautiful as fully bloomed petals of a lotus flower, by whom the lamp of knowledge, filled with the oil of Mahabharata, is lighted. Last Sunday was a Guru Purnima day, which is also celebrated as Vyasa Purnima day. Vyasa is considered to be one of the greatest gurus of all. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay, for a very nice and a clear explanation of the second Gita Dhyana Shloka. The best way to learn is to teach. Now, if there is someone else in your home who would be interested, I would suggest we would give you all the literature that is required. And before the next class, if you can make an attempt to explain what you've just heard, the understanding of what you have got will be far more deeper. I will proceed to the main topic today. What do you mean by Jnanam? What is this spiritual knowledge? How do we get this spiritual knowledge? And to explain this, we have Dr. Sundar, who is a plastic surgeon working at St. John's Medical College Hospital, and an ardent student and a wonderful teacher of Vedanta. Dr. Sundar, please.
Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good evening, everybody. Jnanam has a specific meaning in the context of Advaita Vedanta. Jnanam in Advaita Vedanta means Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya Jnanam. So the key word here is Aikyam, which means essential oneness. Therefore, Jnanam, knowledge, is about the essential oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma. One may perceive, I who has so many limitations, how may I be equal to Paramatma? So the scriptures say the same Atma which pervades and manifests through the Sharira Trayam as Jivatma also manifests through the Prapanchatrayam as Paramatma, and the scriptures say, therefore, there is essential oneness. Question may be, how are we to discount the Shariratrayam, the Prapanchatrayam, which forms the matter or the Anatma principle? So the scriptures traditionally have various methods to say why Anatma can be discounted. We will focus on one such method here. So the scriptures say, closely examine what is the relationship between Atma on one side and Anatma or the Shariratrayam, Prapanchatrayam or the material vesture on the other side. Scriptures say there is a cause, which is Atma, and effect, which is the Anatma, relationship between the two. Two rules apply whenever there is a cause-effect relationship. The cause is in here within the effect, and actually there is no effect other than the cause. These two rules establish why Anatma can be discounted, as we can see through the example of clay and pot. So let us apply these two rules to clay, which is the cause, and pot, which is the effect. So we can see that the clay is in here in the pot, and actually there is no pot other than clay. Therefore, we can say the clay or the cause alone is independently existent, while the pot or the effect is dependently existent. So the scriptures point out that which independently exists, which is also called as Satyam, alone is countable, while that which is dependently existent on the cause, the effect or the pot in this example, since it is having a dependent existence, we can discount. It is as good as not there. It is like a superficial distraction rooted upon the cause. Therefore, the cause alone is. Therefore, the Atma alone is, and the Anatma can be discounted. Another method is to say that the entire objective universe or the Anatma presupposes a knowing principle, a knower. Therefore is dependent on the knower. The knower is nothing but consciousness or Atma. Again giving rise to the same conclusion that cause alone matters, cause alone exists. Therefore Atma alone can be counted and Anatma can be discounted. Therefore establishing the aikyam between Jivatma and Paramatma. So this Jnanam is essentially oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma, and this is the pinnacle of human intellect. So Krishna says in this verse in the 13th chapter, Yat tad Jnanam matam mama. This is my considered opinion that this alone is Jnanam, nothing else is Jnanam. So having glorified Jnanam, one would be interested to know what is the means of acquiring this Jnanam. So the scriptures point out there is a singular means, just like there is one way to enter the Garbha Gudi of a temple, there is only one sadhana through which we can gain Jnanam. And scriptures say that is Jnana Yoga. And scriptures also point out that Jnana Yoga essentially comprises of three components, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Each of them has a particular goal in mind. Shravanam causes ajnana nivritti, or it removes ignorance regarding my true self. Am I what I have believed me to be all this while? Am I this body? Am I this mind? So during Shravanam, the Guru uses the scriptures like a mirror to show us our true nature, which is of the nature of Atma Swarupam. So this knowledge is gained in the first component, Shravanam. However, I may have multiple doubts. Then we go on to the next component, which is Mananam, which is also called a Shamshaya Nivritti, during which stage all the intellectual doubts I may have regarding my true nature as presented during Shravanam are removed. At the end of this, I have drought-free knowledge, but I still keep revisiting my prior self, which is of the nature of body-mind complex. This major hurdle is removed through the third component, which is called Nididhyasanam, which is called Viparyaya Nivritti. So this Jnana Yoga figures in the Jnana Kanda, or the end portion of the Vedas, the Vedanta portion, also called as Upanishads. Let us now see each of these in detail. Shravanam is traditionally defined as consistent and systematic study of scriptures for a length of time under a competent guru. Therefore, this presupposes study under a sampradaya and study of the scriptures. At this stage, I have faith in the validity of the teaching and the guru. Whatever doubts I may have, I set them aside for the next stage, which is mananam. Having done Shravanam for a length of time, having gathered the knowledge during Shravanam, in this stage I reflect upon this teaching. In this stage I try to understand clearly myself, at which time a lot of doubts go away. I also have the benefit of discussing in a satsang, like a group like this, or with the guru to clarify my doubts. Therefore, Vedanta is not a blind faith. Questions are encouraged. At the end of Mananam, I have a doubt-free conviction regarding the knowledge I have gained in Shravanam, which is regarding my Atma Swarupam. However, as I said, we keep revisiting our prior self, which is solved through the next stage, which is called Nididhyasanam. So Nididhyasanam is defined as converting or transforming a doubt-free conviction regarding my true self, which is Atma Swarupam, to emotional strength. All along, I have heard that samsara is a problem of self-ignorance. Then why are we talking about emotional strength or weakness? This has to be understood clearly through these two fundamental principles in Vedanta, which are also go by the name Avaranam and Vikshepaha in the previous discussion. But for easier understanding, we use the word non-apprehension and misapprehension. Non-apprehension of my true self, the Atma, which is ever perfect, which is ever free from emotional upheaval, results in misapprehension and a false identity with my non-self, which is the body-mind complex, which is never perfect and which is ever riddled with emotional problems. So this is traditionally explained with Raju Sarpa Drishtanta, or the rope snake example. So when there is partial light and partial darkness, a rope is not seen as a rope, which is non-apprehension. Rather, it is seen as a snake, which is misapprehension. And because of seeing as a snake, there is bhayam. Same thing happens in our day-to-day life. So the basic problem may be ignorance of my true self, but I am experiencing emotional problems which belong to the non-self, as listed here. As long as these emotional problems are there, that means Shravanam and Mananam has not happened, but it's not well assimilated. And without assimilation, it is as good as useless. Next slide, sir. Therefore, Nididhyasanam is conversion of doubt-free conviction to emotional strength. My Atma Swarupam is a fact to me. My personality is completely soaked in this observation of I being my Atma Swarupam. Such a fact is available to me even during the worst emotional turmoil. And whatever thought, deed, act I do, they are all a reflection of my true self. How do I accomplish such a transformation? So the problem is one of an anomaly of non-apprehension and misapprehension, and solution is presented as repair of this anomaly, as understood from the teachings of Swami Paramarthananda ji. So repair is an acronym which means revision of perspective and its emotional response in the light of Vedantic teaching, ILOVT. To explain further, revision of perspective means I constantly revise my perspective from the lower nature, which is body-mind complex, to my higher nature, which is the Atma Swarupam, a knowledge of this which I have got through Shravanam and Mananam. Having done this perspective, my emotional response now is in tune with my higher nature, which is Atma Swarupam. Prior to Nididhyasanam, I am consistently actually doing Nididhyasanam of my body-mind complex and saying, I am a doctor, I am an adult person, and so on. This is called vasana or viparyaya bhavana. The demand upon us is to revise this perspective from my lower self or body-mind complex to Atma Swarupam. Having revised this, I have to change my emotional response, which is in tune with my new perspective, which is Atman and Brahman. When non-apprehension disappears, the misapprehension also disappears. So when I come to know that the rope is rope, I no longer see it as a snake and the fear disappears. So earlier I said consciousness is not a product of property. I'm seeing consciousness as a second person. After Nididhyasanam, when this knowledge is a part of me, I say, I am not a product of this body. I am an independent entity which pervades this body, and so forth. In conclusion, as Ramana Maharshi said in this key verse of his work Upadesha Saram, Ahami Nasha Baj Aham Taya Sparati Hrutsayam Parama Purna Sat. When I learn to revise my perspective, the true self shines forth spontaneously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sundar. This is a very difficult topic both to understand and also to explain. To say, how is it possible that I am same as God? Now, there is no real example that can be given. Dr. Sundar gave a verse from the 13th chapter where Shri Krishna says, Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. In each one of you, there is someone who is watching, who is listening. Who is that one who is experiencing everything? Shri Krishna declares that the one who is listening, watching through your body is none other than the higher self. So all of us are a mixture of the body-mind complex and the Shri Krishna principle. And all we need to do is identify your body as an instrument like my computer or my spectacles through which I function. But remember, the real self is none other than the Shri Krishna principle. And this is the pinnacle of human knowledge. Is there any example that can give it? I have no real example. We say this mantra, Om Purnam Adaha. That is Purna, that is divine. That means God is Purna or divine. This is also Purna. And how do we say that? We say that through the wave example. Now, the wave has come from the ocean. The wave has a date of birth. It grows, it decays, it disappears. If I identify with the Nama Rupa, with the form, I have a birth, I have growth, I have decay, I have death. But if I identify with my true nature of the wave is water, if I can understand that my body mind is only the name and form, but that my real self is water, water has always been and will always be. We come to declare that I have been there from the very beginning. If there is a beginning, I will be there till the very end if there is an end. There is no beginning, there is no end. These sort of transformations will go on to the periphery of me, but not to me. If this is understood, Vedanta is understood. We go to the next topic. The next topic is what happens to a person once this spiritual wisdom comes. I will request Dr. Sundar again to explain what is called the fruit of knowledge. What happens to such a person? Dr. Sundar again.
So we have seen that Jnanam is the knowledge that I and God are essentially the same. The core essence between us is the same. And we've also seen that the means to that Jnanam is through a guru who holds the Shastra mirror and shows to us our true nature, which is Atma Swarupam. And then I consolidate on this through a process of mananam and live through this teaching, abide through this teaching through a process of nididhyasanam. So let's see here what is the benefit of this jnanam. Scriptures point out that there are dual benefits. So the first benefit is called as Jivan Mukti, which is a practical day-to-day life benefit that I have while I am alive. And the second benefit is a metaphysical benefit, a promise after birth. Let us see these in details. Jivan Mukti. This is variously described as inner peace. It is described as inner mental strength, inner mental immunity, despite favorable or unfavorable external circumstances, all of these born from a thorough understanding and abidance in Atma Jnanam. Atma Jnana Nishtha is Jivan Mukti. This usually expresses in the form of Swatantram, Purnatvam and Samatvam. Let's examine this in more detail. Swatantram means independence. Normally, before a person gets Jnanam, the usual course of events is one relies on the external setup for happiness. It may be an object, relationship, or a person. Problem is the external setup is not dependable. It is ephemeral. It is perishable, impermanent. Therefore, his life becomes a roller coaster ride of joy and sorrow. However, after attaining Jnanam, in the case of a Jivan Mukta, he does not depend on the external setup. Why would he depend? Because within him lies the source of eternal happiness, peace, and security. This non-dependence due to reliance on his Atma Swarupam is what is called as Swatantram. Next we go to Purnatvam. Also means completeness, fulfillment, contentment. This again is born because this person is able to revise his perspective, constantly abide in his Sachitananda Swarupa Atma, which is of the nature of Purnatvam, doesn't have any limitations. So this person will never face isolation or rejection. He accepts everybody as himself. Also, Jivan Mukti expresses as Samatvam, which is also called as equanimity. We need to clearly understand that Jnanam doesn't give me any kind of power to make my future favorable. However, it gives me the mental ability to face any future. Therefore, self-knowledge is a great shock absorber. So an enlightened person, even in the greatest tragedy, is able to maintain his calm. He is not overwhelmed. This journey is from what, which is from the perspective of my lower I body-mind complex, to so what, which is from the perspective of higher self, which is Atma Swarupam. This is a journey from a favorable FIR, from an unfavorable FIR to a favorable FIR principle. So the next benefit the scriptures give is Videha Mukti. Videha Mukti is a promise after death. Let us examine death more carefully. Death is defined as Viyoga or separation between Sthula and Sukshma Karana Sharira. In the case of an Ajnani, when that happens, the Sthula Sharira gets mixed with the elements, whereas the Sukshma Karana Sharira transmigrates, acquires another Sthula Sharira in any of the 14 lokas. And this process is called as rebirth or Punarjanma, as described in this verse, Vasamsi Jirnani Yata Vihaya. However, in the case of Ajnani, at the time of death, all the three Shariras, they merge into their counterparts at the Samashti level. There are two ways to explain why a Jnani will, after attaining Videha Mukti, will not have rebirth. So the first one is to say that since there is no persistence of Sukshma Karana Sharira, it cannot take another Sthula Sharira. Therefore, there is no rebirth. Another way is to say that Jnanam destroys, burns the entire Sanchita Karma, which is there in the cloud. Whatever acts a Jnani does, he does it as a roasted seed. That is the description given in the Shastras, meaning to say that his acts do not germinate into Punya Papa Karmas. So therefore, there is no Agami Karma. Once the Prarabdha Karmas are exhausted, no further karmas are left for a Jnani to be reborn. Therefore, there is no rebirth. In conclusion, a Jnani is liberated from unhealthy emotional responses while living, and he is liberated from rebirth after death. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sundar, for a wonderful explanation of what is the benefit of getting this knowledge. And that is called Vedanta promises something not posthumous, not a heaven that happens after death. It happens while you are alive. While you are tethered to this body with all its limitations, can you be a Mukta Purusha? Mukta means totally free while you are living, and then once the body drops off, There is no question of coming back. There is no question of going back to nursery. There's no question of going back to first year medical school or engineering school. You're done with all that. Now that is the joy of learning scriptures under the guidance of a proper acharya. You get that degree of Jivan Muktaha. This is possible through the study of the Bhagavad Gita. Before we go to the next topic, we will study 2 more Gita Dhyana Shlokas. And pay attention, because you are going to be a teacher. I want you to listen, what is called 3-person listen. Listen as if you're going to teach each other about this Gita Dhyana Shloka. And to explain this, I will request Shamala. Shamala was an officer working in a public sector bank, an ardent student of Vedanta, and a person who has led me to all the gurus that I know. Shamala, please go ahead.
Hari Om. In the Dhyana Shlokas, Madhusudana Saraswati offers Namaskara to Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Vyasacharya, and Namaskara to Lord Shri Krishna. Through 5 verses, he offers Namaskara to Shri Krishna and glorifies him. This is the first verse on Lord Shri Krishna. The verse goes like this. Prapanna parijataya totra vetraika panaye Gnana mudraya krishnaya Gita duhe namaha. Let us see the verse in detail. Krishnaya namaha, or namaskara to Shri Krishna. Prapanna parijataya. Parijata is a special tree which is supposed to be in the heaven. And the uniqueness of this tree is, if you sit under the tree and desire for anything, the tree will provide whatever you ask for. And here Lord Krishna is compared to such a Parijata Vriksha. But one condition is presented. What is that? Prapanna means whoever surrenders unto him, he is the wish-fulfilling tree to them, giver of everything. So, Prapanna Parijataya. Next, Totra Vetra Eka Panaye. Krishna means Krishna holding the handle of a whip. In the Mahabharata battlefield, Lord Krishna was the charioteer of Arjuna, sitting in the front and holding a whip in one hand to drive the chariot. He loosened the reins for the interim period, but everything was under control. So, Totra Vetra Eka Panaye. Next, Gnana Mudraya. His other hand has the gesture of symbolizing knowledge. Gnana Mudra. The very name shows that this mudra represents Gnana, knowledge. This is a remarkable concept in Indian Vedantic philosophy. Gnana Mudra is formed by joining the index finger with the thumb to form a circle, and the other 3 fingers are away from the index finger and thumb. The index finger represents Jivatma, the individual lower self, who is at the moment a limited entity, a mortal. Thumb stays away from the index finger and all other fingers. The index finger is closer to all the other 3 fingers naturally. The other 3 fingers represent perishable material body, so Sukshma, Sthula Sukshma and Karana Sharira. Jivatma is associated with that. Then what is the spiritual sadhana? Separate Jivatma from the perishable material body and join with thumb. The thumb represents Paramatma. With the help of the thumb alone, all other fingers can function properly. Just as the powerful thumb supports all other fingers, Paramatma is the Adhara, the support to the entire creation. Therefore, Jivatma should get detached from the material vesture and join the Paramatma, the thumb. Once the Jivatma, the ego, surrenders to Paramatma, the higher self, it becomes a circle. The circle has uniqueness. It has no beginning and end. It becomes Purna. It is a Purna, complete, Ananta, Anadi. The material Jivatma becomes immaterial Paramatma. So this wisdom Krishna wants to present through Gnana Mudra. Next, Gita Amrita Duhe. Duhe means one who milks a cow. Lord Krishna who milks the nectar, Amrita, that is the Bhagavad Gita. From where? From the cow of the Upanishads. Shri Krishna is the greatest Jnani, greatest Karma Yogi, kindest Lord, wish-fulfilling tree. Because of all these reasons alone, Krishna becomes the most popular one. His very word, Krishna, means who attracts all the devotees. Sarvan Bhaktan Karshati Akarshati iti Krishna. To that wonderful Lord, I offer my namaskara. Hari Om. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Shamala, for another wonderful explanation of another Gita Dhyana Shloka. We will have the last Gita Dhyana Shloka for today that will be explained by Mrs. Neeta Podar, a very ardent student of Vedanta and one who's been doing a lot of back-end work to keep us all together. Neeta, please go ahead.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat. This is verse 4 of the Dhyana Shlokas, which are recited before chanting or listening to the Bhagavad Gita. They are recited to invoke the grace of the Lord and ward off any obstacles that may arise. The Dhyana Shlokas are prayers dedicated to the Mahabharata, the Gita, Ved Vyasa, and to Shri Krishna. This verse is dedicated to honor the greatness and glory of the Bhagavad Gita itself. Bhagavad Gita is the divine song of the gods spoken by Shri Krishna to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Swamiji says Bhagavad Gita is not the philosophy of Shri Krishna, he is the teacher. Nor is it the philosophy of Veda Vyasa, he is the compiler of Bhagavad Gita. Then what is Bhagavad Gita? It is the teaching contained in the Vedas. It is the Veda Sara, the essence of the Vedas. Vedas are the original scriptures existing from beginning of time in our culture. They are voluminous, inaccessible, and incomprehensible to us. The end of the Vedas are known as Vedanta. They contain the Upanishads. These Upanishads give us the knowledge of self. Who are we? What is the Atma? And much, much more. Bhagavad Gita is in the essence of these Upanishadic teachings. To convey this, Madhusudan Saraswati, the author of these Dhyana Shlokas, gives us another analogy. In this verse, he compares the Upanishads to a cow. Sarva Upanishado Gavo. Gavo is cow. All the Upanishads are from the four Vedas are like cows. And what is Krishna? Krishna has been an expert cowherder since childhood. He handles the cows really well. And similarly, he can handle the Upanishads with the same expertise. Throughout the Gita, we see that Krishna has exquisitely extracted the essence of the Upanishads. He has quoted verbatim many a times of the Upanishad verses also. Krishna is therefore compared to the milker, Dogda Gopala Nandana. And if the cow has to give milk, generally the calf is to be kept near the cow to extract the milk. The cow gives the milk out of compassion and love. Arjuna is compared to the calf, Partho Vatsaha. Krishna gives the Upanishadic essence to Arjuna. The great and glorious Bhagavad Gita is compared to the milk. Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat. Gita, or the milk, are like nectar. The wise ones, Sudhir Bhokta, drink the milk and they receive the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the Bhagavad Gita, this is the Namaskara offered to in verse 4 to the Bhagavad Gita. We can go on with the glories of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, the next week we will be covering the glories of Bhagavad Gita. In summary, all the Upanishads are the cows, Krishna is the milker, Arjuna is the calf, and the wise ones are the enjoyers of the milk, which is the supreme nectar of Gita. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Neeta, for another very nice explanation. With that, we come to the end of all the Gita Dhyana Shlokas. I just want your patience for the last topic, which I will cover as quickly as possible. This is an important topic which will answer many of the questions that we have as to why there is so much suffering in the world. What is this karma all about? As we come to the end of a long session, our bodies may be tired. I just want 1 minute of your time. Then I want you to just become aware of your body posture. We will do a 1 minute open eye meditation. Just adjust your posture so that you're sitting in a comfortable position. Keep your back upright. If your feet is down, feel the ground beneath your feet. Become aware of all the sensations in your body. Become aware of all the sounds that you might hear. And come in touch with the one who is listening to all this. The essence of meditation, the quintessence of meditation, is called seeing the seer. Are you aware of that conscious principle within you, who is the listener, who listens through this body? Are you aware of that principle because of which you are alive? And that is the real you. We come to the last topic today. What is law of karma? Karma means action and the consequence of action. We have heard that what you sow is what you reap. If you do good actions, you incur punya. If you do bad actions, you get papa. All punya brings happiness, all papa brings unhappiness. And this theory is explanation for all the disparity you see in the world, for all the sufferings within myself or in the world outside. I will refer you to the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called Akshara Brahma Yoga, which begins in with a question from Arjuna, where Arjuna asks Shri Krishna, Kim Tad Brahma? What is Brahma? Kim Adhyatma? Kim Karma? Kim, what is this karma? Here we are talking about the law of karma. Arjuna continues the question and he asks, who is this Adi Yajna? Adi Yajna Katam? And then he seems to know something else, that this Adi Yajna fellow that he is asking, Koatra Dehe Asmin Madhusudana, who is this Adi Yajna and where does he reside within this body? So the question is about Adi Yajna. And Krishna will reply that this, I'll go to the next verse. Let us see what this next verse. And Krishna replies, Adi Yajna Aham Eva. I alone am this Adi Yajna. Atra Dehe Deha Bratam Vara. I am that Adi Yajna principle that you are asking, indweller within all our bodies. Who is this Adi Yajna? Adi Yajna, another name is called Karma Phala Data. Whenever I do any actions, who is that intelligent principle who's saying it is a good action or a bad action? Who is the one who is to decide the quantum of benefit or punishment? We know very well that if a wrong action is done, it is not the law books that decide the quantum of punishment, but it is a judge who decides why that action was done, what is the motive behind the action. So we need an intelligent principle. That intelligent principle within us is the Sri Krishna principle, who is always there, who is always watching, who has access to every information, every thought of us. And therefore, normally we see video cameras elsewhere. Now we have a video camera right within us, which knows not only our action, but also the motive or the intention of our action. Let me share a story, which I have shared with my friends many times. It is a story of a certain spiritual guru who had 2 students. He gives both of them an envelope, 24 hours time, with a brief, I want you to destroy this envelope in 24 hours time, but destroy it in a place where there is nobody. One person takes it to his room, darkens his room, ensures there is nobody there, lights a lamp, destroys it, reports to the teacher. The other person comes back to the teacher with the same envelope and says, "My lord, you gave me a brief that I had to destroy it within, in a place where there is nobody. I had a problem. Wherever I went, I was there." Analyze who is this I who accompanies you wherever you go. And if you analyze yourself, you will see there are two fellows. There is a higher principle which says, "No, don't do it, it's not right." There is a lower fellow who says, "Yeah, there's nobody watching, let me take a shortcut." This higher principle and the lower principle in the Mundakopanishad was described as the upper bird and the lower bird, also called as the Jivatma and Paramatma. When you act from the higher, you are in the Paramarthika. When you act from the lower, sometimes you are into the Vyavaharika. Coming to what is this certain terminology, and these are the last few sets of terms that you need to know. What do you mean by Sanchita Karma? Now, all the accumulated punya and papa of all the janmas is there in a computer data. We can call it some form of a cloud data, which is there, and in an excellent computer which cannot crash, which contains all our data. The accumulated punya and papa is called sanchita. The word sanchita means accumulated. When a person is being born, from that accumulated bank, in deposits mature over a period of time, that is called fructification. A certain amount of punya and papa gets matured. And whatever is matured, that amount is given as a deposit when a person is born. And that is the capital with which we come. And that is which gives us all the good things in the world. And that brings all the bad things in the world also. So I am entirely responsible for all the good that I come, what kind of family I'm born, what kind of body I have. And all these come from what is called prarabdha. This prarabdha decides my lifespan also, because this prarabdha, this unit of punya and papa, cannot be exhausted in a single day. It has to be exhausted over my entire lifespan. It is divided depending upon how much enjoyment you can finish in each day. And therefore, it is very rightly said, what wakes you up in the morning? It is not your alarm clock. It is your prarabdha that has to be exhausted. So that is one which wakes you up, because in your dream or in your sleep, you do not exhaust this kind of karma. You have to be awake and you have to consciously experience all this. While I am living, I do certain good deeds, certain bad deeds also. This comes under the category of agami. Sometimes this agami karma which I do, if I do a bad deed, I have to pay for it immediately. But sometimes it may not be used up in this life. It goes back to my cloud data, what is called my sanchita. Now the question is, we have studied about karma yoga before. Is karma yoga the same as the law of karma? The answer is no. They are two different things. Karma yoga means right action, right attitude. Remember, Ishvara Arpana Bhava, Prasada Bhava, and it has nothing to do with action and the results of action. Every action that I do, therefore do willfully and consciously, can produce two types of results. It can produce what is called Drishta Phalam and Adrishta Phalam. For instance, if I write out a check for charity, what is the drishta part? What is the visible part? A certain amount of money has been deducted from my bank account and a certain amount has been transferred. This is what is visible. What is adrishta? What is not seen? That means adrishta, a certain amount of punya, certain amount of virtue is added to me. And that is what is called adrishta. And adrishta can be divided into sudrishta and duradrishta. And all the duradrishta brings sorrow. Now, what actions bring you punya? What actions bring out papa? If those actions which are endorsed by the scriptures, and if you do them, they bring out punya. Those actions which the scriptures prohibit you should not do, they bring about papa. But then there may be some actions which the scriptures have not described. How do you decide whether you have to get punya or papa? That depends upon the motive. And who knows the motive? I may do a seemingly bad action with a good intention, so I will be rewarded. I may be doing a seemingly good action with a bad intention, then I get papa for it. If I can summarize this whole terms in the karma, the accumulated past births, punya and papa, is called sanchita. From that, what is ready for my present life is called prarabdha. Those actions that I do in the present life, good and bad, are called agami karma. Now, my present life is a combination of prarabdha and agami. Some of the agami will not be exhausted in this life. They go back to my cloud data that goes back to Sanchita. If you haven't understood these terms, because when you go to the Bhagavad Gita, these terms will be coming into the scriptures. Finally, what is the advantage of knowing the law of karma? Now, it is very difficult to accept, but this is true according to Vedanta. We have mothers bringing small children with a brain cancer who have to go through surgery, chemotherapy. They ask this question, what wrong has this little baby done to do all that? I cannot tell my patients if they are not ready to accept, but every suffering is a part of our karma. When you see disparity in the world, when you see suffering in the world, it is because of our punya and papa. And therefore, if you have understood this law of karma, you take yourself, I am responsible for my life. A Vedantic student, and if you come into the world of Vedanta, from today onwards, you stop blaming any difficult person in your life for any good or bad, because you know the difficulty is also a part of your prarabdha, and everything has happened as per a bigger plan. And a spiritually groomed person will never blame anybody for the mess that he or she is in. My faith in God will never be shaken, because now I know that God is not responsible for anything good or bad in the world or good or bad in me. I am responsible. And finally, I take charge of my life, because now I know my future is dependent upon how I live my life today. And these are the certain advantages. Again, the same question comes, there are so many good people who are suffering. There are so many bad people who seem to have a good time. Again, go back to the law of karma. It is because of past actions or part of your prarabdha. Finally, if I have to summarize, how do I accept and make the most of my prarabdha? Then second question is my life entirely decided by karma? Is there some choice that I have? Remember that famous Alcoholic Anonymous prayer which goes, give me the courage to change the things I can, because not all prarabdha may be very powerful. There is called prabala and durbala. Durbala means weak. And if I have a strong will, I can overcome some of my karma. Courage to accept that which I cannot change. The strong prarabdha I cannot do. And the wisdom to know the difference. Finally, this brings about a certain leadership and responsibility in my life. I take responsibility for everything that happens. I don't blame anybody. I don't complain. I use this for my own spiritual growth, especially the difficulties in my life. And I'm certain all will be well. Why? Because whatever happens to my lower self, to my body-mind complex. And this is a great teaching given by one of our teachers, Swami Paramarthananda. He says, as body-mind complex, there is no permanent solution to any problem. We will solve one problem today, tomorrow another problem. As body and mind, we go from problem to problem. So there is no permanent solution to any problem. But as the higher self, there is no problem. And therefore, what do? When you wake up in the morning, wake up as Parabrahma, Paramatma, entering into this limited body-mind complex, play the role all the time, remembering this is a role play and this is not real you. If you understand the scriptures, you get Jnanam, what Dr. Sundar spoke of. And I will read the last line of this verse from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Gnana Agni, the fire of knowledge is like radiation power. Just like radiation can destroy cancer cells, spiritual knowledge has the ability to burn all that cloud data that is there called the Sanchita Karma. Mark these words of Sri Krishna. Jnanagni sarva karmani basmasat kurute tata. All the karmas are destroyed. When all the karmas are destroyed, then there is no more karma. There is no more reason for punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.